Okay. Um, as I said, these semesters are turning a little strange these days, and my entire department had decided prior to, well, I guess the summer, to take everything online and keep it online, at least through the fall and probably into the spring, because it kind of fits the type of stuff that we do and with all of our online programs now. But at the same time, there is no great likelihood that we will have be able to do any sort of university coursework with any sort of success in a face-to-face fashion for the foreseeable future. And we know how that went with UNC Chapel Hill last week, and they've already shut down. And I know of about 5 or 6 other universities across the country that had decided to try to go with a face-to-face model and have already uh, pulled the plug and gone back to virtual. So, I hope App State does a little bit better, but I'm not convinced that you can ask a 21-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 22-year-old to go to college and not party. And they may start with the best of intentions, but it only takes about one beer to kind of swat those intentions aside and fall back into a pattern that they would prefer to be in. So I'm hesitantly optimistic about the prospects of, at least at the university level, being able to do any sort of face-to-face coursework. Uh, More realistic me says it'll probably not happen very well, and we'll end up after Labor Day telling kids not to come back. So we'll just kind of see how this plays out. But that's our world, and it gets a little crazier every day. We've had in my department we had 3 or 4 new faculty members, and you will encounter probably at least a couple of them over the next year because they're engaged in school administration work and handling some of the upper level school admin courses. So you'll probably encounter those. And new department head, lots of things changing. So just be aware that the what we now know the schedule to be may be altered by events that none of us can really control at this point. So you just have to be nimble and flexible and be willing to go in a different direction. Now, that was my pandemic soapbox. I hope to find out a little bit about what's been happening with y'all and where you see the kind of where you see things headed in your local settings, and we'll do that in just a minute because I think it's going to cloud how you complete some of these assignments. And so we'll kind of see. I'm looking off to the chat room here. We'll kind of see how that plays out and whether we have to make any individual adaptations or anything like that. And so what I thought we'd do is we'd start by looking at the course syllabus and just get a kind of a quick run through. I think most everything's in there. The As You Learn site is essentially ready to go. I've opened up 2 or 3 sections already. We'll be opening probably most of the rest of it tomorrow or the day after. I just have to go through and check all the dates and make sure the assignment links and the submission links are all keyed to the right dates. And I haven't had the same assignment due 2 different dates, one in the syllabus or someplace else, and one on the As You Learn. So it'll take me another day or so to kind of play with those and walk through those and make sure they're all covered. But all the content's in there, and all the assignments, information about the assignments are in there. The only thing missing is kind of individual sequence of things that'll happen through the course. It is designed to be a hybrid course, to be about 50%, a little bit more synchronous, and the rest of it async. And as a course, it takes this is one in which a great deal of the completion of assignments and preparation for completion of assignments is really on your part. There's a lot of reading material. Well, not a lot, but there's a fair amount of reading material. There are a few videos coming. I haven't done quite one yet that I'll be posting up, but we'll, a lot of it's going to be on your end of the pipeline. And so be aware that this is a course in which we begin to look at administration as a team, and administration kind of gazing into the short-term and long-term future. Because right now everybody's reacting to what's happening around them, and that's the prime imperative. But there is no getting back to normal. There is getting to a new routine that will be, I won't even say a new normal, because I don't know that we'll get to a normal setting. We'll get to perhaps a more comfortable setting as soon as we can get a handle on this viruses. But here's the bad thing about viruses: they don't die, they don't go away. They since they're not really living tissue, they don't have DNA, so we can't attack them biologically. We kind of have to attack them structurally and also by behavior. And there may be a vaccine available at some point in time. It will be, I suspect, something akin to a flu shot, maybe with a couple of boosters or something like that. I'd say within a year or so, but it'll only provide, probably at best, 75 or 80% security. And so even if you'd vaccinated everybody in the world, you'd still have 25 or 30% of the people out there that would, be susceptible to the virus. So we have to all kind of think that, there is not a quote unquote return to normal coming. There is a new, I don't want to call it normal, but there is a new comfort level that we'll have to get used to. And it may require us to make some structural and long-term changes in schools. And so you should begin to think about that and begin to factor that into all your thought processes about school administration or supervision or whatever, because it will be different. And we'll just have to see. At least that's my take. And I'm a scientist. I've always been a data person, so that's kind of what the data and the articles and leads me to believe, and it's kind of consistent with what some people that are a whole lot smarter than me tend to believe too. So, with that sort of depressing thought to begin, it's not really depressing. It's just reality. To use that phrase that my wife has always hated that I use for the last 42 years or so, it is what it is. I mean, you confront with what's in front of you and kind of deal with it. That's the best we can do. And doesn't mean you have to be depressed or sorrowful or anything like that. It just means you have to be aware and realize that, you're coming at this thing, and you're going to have to, we're going to have to figure out how we continue to deal with it in the long term. So quickly, I'll give you a yell, give me a 1 or a 2 minute, no more than that, scenario of what's happening in your division or your local sites. And kind of your thought process about, how all that's going to go. And so I'm going to call on people as you're on my screen. So there'll be no order to this. So Paul, why don't we start with you?
Sure, just kind of fill you in what's going on. Is that the plan? Yes. Okay. So I'm at a small charter school, and we are starting in Plan B with students arriving tomorrow. To make the numbers work with social distancing and everything, we've split our group into basically 2 cohorts that are alternating. So we're at half occupancy in the building. If everyone showed up, but a lot have chosen to go remotely. And just in terms of thinking about how school improvement will work, I think there's a lot to think about. Yeah, cool. That's me.
You're muted, Dr. Bolt.
Wouldn't it? I'm assuming that most of you don't know sign language, and I don't either, so that's okay. Alexa.
Hey everybody, it's good to see your smiling faces or tired faces or just see your faces in general. I'm still in Guilford running our homebound program, and I started interning. Today was my first day interning. I am split between 2 sites interning, so I'm doing my full-time job, my usual 50 plus hours a week, and interning 1 day a week. I'm really excited to get going with that, but it was so good to be in the school building today. We don't have kids there, but it was just good to be with the teachers and be with the admin team today. So it's a long day. I'm really tired, but it gave me some pep today. And we're in Plan C in Guilford. We're in Plan C for the first 9 weeks at least, possibly longer. And our CARES Act funding, along with some advocacy with our county commission, led us to, we're going to become 1-to-1. So we've ordered 80,000 devices. So that's a huge, I'm going to call it a silver lining coming out of this, as we have not been a 1-to-1 district, and everything's ordered and on its way. So that'll help us.
All right. Sounds like a lot of initiatives going on there. Of course, the easy part's ordering the machines. The hard part is the pedagogical adjustments that you have to figure out how to make, and that's always the thing that school divisions struggle with most. Is machine doesn't do it on its own, so you have to figure out the pedagogy, and that becomes more difficult.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's so unique about the pandemic is, like, we've already had to have the pedagogy first without the devices. Like, we had to go remote, and so we've already been having to build, like, what does it look like to teach remotely, and so we've been doing that since March. So this is it's a unique way to roll out, get into 1-to-1 after you've already been requiring the use of the technology, but without it.
Yeah. Okay, Denise.
Okay, so I have 2 days down already. So, and it's actually been okay. Our school of 2,200 is down to 750 for the A cohort, and the B cohort, same amount. We're basically doing a hybrid plan. The only tricky part for me was, or actually for the EC department, was trying to figure out how we're going to serve all their IEPs in the virtual world and also in the cohort. So I will say past 2 days I've not had lunch because I go all day long. It's just crazy. Like, first period, I'm a virtual support for English 1 through 4. Second period, I'm in the classroom, but I'm going to another math class. Third period, I'm in a classroom, but I'm also doing virtual class at 1. The whole thing's just chaos, utter chaos. So I'm hoping it calms down. Like, tomorrow we just have virtual learning for the kids. and we do meetings, that kind of thing. So Thursday we bring Group B in and see how it goes, I guess. Actually, the worst thing has been the car pickup line. Nightmare, because we have to separate everybody. Nightmare. But that's pretty much it. You're
Yeah,
muted. Okay.
no, I'm just saying, it's kind of insane almost. Some of the more routine, simpler stuff is really the stuff that we never spend a lot of time trying to figure out, the appropriate way to do it. And then that kind of grabs us, early on in these models, and then you realize, okay, we got to figure out every little possible scenario that
Yeah.
can happen. And, that's,
And our morning, Monday morning, yesterday, when we started, we didn't allow anyone on campus through the gates until 8:15, like the drop off, which that backed everything up. So this morning we started at 8 with temperature checks and had more people out there, But it's really, honestly, I don't want to jinx anything, but it really all went really smoothly for being such a big school.
yeah.
The only weird thing is following the arrows and going in the right direction, especially as a teacher. I like to break rules. And so I'm like watching and I'm sliding. Good job, guys. Slide. Try to get where I need to go. But it's been good. Good so far.
Well, good. Hang in there. WT.
Hey guys.
I assume you go by WT, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's good to see everybody. We are in Plan B in Columbus County with our K through 4 is going face to face, and then 5th through 12 we're virtual for 30 days. So I don't have kids in the building right now, but we had our face-to-face orientation last week, and my principal asked me to help organize that situation, and that was a blast. So I really found myself seeing all the headaches that are coming our way. So that's exciting for everyone if you haven't experienced that. Other than that, it's just been exciting finding math activities and math resources to put out there, because how much students, especially high school students, love math. So that's been fun this week to do that. And then I guess since last time we all saw each other, a few of you guys know, but we're expecting our second child coming this March. So we all need something else to add to the year. So it's an exciting time. So it should be a fun year for sure. And that's it for me.
Good. Yeah, we're expecting our second grandchild in February, I think. And we haven't seen our first grandchild in almost 6 months. They live in Massachusetts. We live in Virginia. So, we've been told not to come, don't come, don't get near. So, I'm just hoping we get to see both of our grandchildren before the little one is less than a year old,
Yeah, our Gray is very excited to be a big sister. So we're very excited and being very cautious, even more so than we were before. So
yeah. And you don't blame me. I mean, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Family first, always family first.
That's right.
Okay, Nick.
Hey everybody, good to see everyone again. My name is Nick Lank. I am an assistant principal at Asheville High School. We were going to start with Plan B, but then the staff and the community basically told the school board to fuck off, and we are in Plan C, and which is awesome. We were already 1-to-1, so that's good. They were requiring us to come into work. I guess that's part of Plan C. I told them in a professional way to fuck off, that I wasn't going to come in. I didn't feel safe, and I was fully expecting to be fired for that. And they have let me keep my job, which is awesome. So I've been working from home, and it's been much less stressful for me in the sense of like, am I going to die? And so that's awesome. We're doing as best we can. The first few days have seen quite a encouraging amount of attendance online. So that's been good. There's been the expected load of technology issues, but nothing crippling. And yeah, yeah, it's worked out pretty well so far for me.
Good, good, good.
I'm sorry, I'm very foul mouthed, and I will try to fix it.
Yeah, that's.
But
uh,
I can promise you I won't make much progress because there's no children around.
well, I grew up on a farm out in the countryside. I played football, basketball, ran track, summer league baseball, and I was in the Army for 2 years in the infantry, and also jumping out of airplanes during part of that time with the folks down at Fort Bragg. So I have a rich vocabulary too, but I try to restrain it, and
Yeah, I figure if I'm a teacher, I can't cuss nearly as much, but as a student with a bunch of other adults, and
yeah,
it's in the evening.
it really doesn't bother me if it doesn't bother anyone else. I'm kind of I'm ambivalent to all that. At 70 years old, I've probably pretty much heard everything that's been out there, so I'm good.
Yeah.
In multiple languages.
Yeah.
Lane.
Lane's got a
So-
foul mouth too. You gotta watch out for Lane. She will just cuss up a storm. This is bad news, Bears.
telling all my secrets. So in Thomasville, we're doing Plan C for the first 3 weeks of school. But we also have a trail program, which is the parents only have to commit like the first semester for all online, and then they have the option after the first semester ends to go back or stay. I got chosen for first grade to do that. I was voluntold, so yay for me. I have 31 kids in that trail program, so, but the rest of the teachers, they're kind of planning for Plan B. They've already got their kids split. We're just kind of preparing for either way it goes. It went a lot smoother than the spring, but there's a lot more expectations and a lot more time teaching, and I think it's going to be a good thing, but I think we're going to have a few growing pains. If that. I think you're muted.
Sometimes that's a good thing because you probably don't want to hear what I got to say anyhow. But anyhow, nobody knows how this is going to play out. I mean, you kind of give it a shot and then you see what happens. I mean, that's about all you can do. All right, Alicia.
All right, we are currently in Plan C, but I actually would like to be in Plan B. I just don't feel like I can teach through virtual Zoom meetings like this with kids, and I have 3 or 4 who don't even have internet, and it just, I don't know, it just, to me, I would rather them be half and half. Right now, starting the school year, I had 20 kids in my class. Right now, I'm down to 15. So even if we do move to Plan B after the first 3 weeks, we kind of have the same kind of plan as Lane. I mean, I guess if half my class was there, that would be like 7 kids. So, so that's where we're at.
Well, yeah, as I say, you have to see where it goes. That's about all we can do these days. See where all this turns. There are, and at some point in time, we'll talk about issues in terms of accreditation and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think that's going to be, quite frankly, anybody's going to be concerned about much of that for the time being, because parents can yell and scream and everything they want to about getting their kids back in school and getting back face to face, but the reality is what the reality is. I mean, if that's not a safe way to do things, then gotta go another way. And I think that's kind of where everybody's at. Yeah. Sydney.
Hey, everybody. We are going to start off in Plan C, but this week we're doing a 20% rotation. So each student's coming into the building this week, 20% Monday, 20% today. We did like C's and D's, E's, and some F last name kids. So by the end of the week, every child would have been in the building. And then we're going to go remote for 3 weeks. And then we'll enter Plan B following after that. For me personally, it's not too bad, but it's kind of conflicting because we're still allowed to have workouts by the state of North Carolina as long as we're following the guidelines. So, I mean, I can have 10 people total in the gym, or I can have 25 outside. And it's just, I mean, we've been podding like nonstop since July 6th, I think it was, we've started workouts. So we've had kids at school nonstop since then.
Have y'all had any interruptions, Sydney? We had it for a while and they had to stop because we had some cases and they're trying to start back with the workout.
We had one in our county. It was a soccer team and they were able to shut down that pod. But other than that, can I be honest? All right, so I had one of the local newspaper guys text me and say, "Hey, coach, heard you had a COVID case on the football team." I'm just like, first of all, it's none of your business. So, but I called him. I didn't want nothing to be in text. So I called him. I said, "Buddy, that's none of your business if anything was to happen at our school, because that's probably pretty private stuff. But I will tell you, no, we don't. And where'd you hear that from?" So I can confront that individual. He says, "Oh, I talked to so many people, I don't know who told me." I was like, "So you're just in the rumor reel right now." So don't let people talk to you guys on trying to fish out information. That ticked me off. But anyways, but the teaching part, it's been nice. The kids are really good. They're all wearing masks. They're following those funky directional signs like Denise said. And I've caught myself going in places I'm not supposed to go, but this is what it is. And the one thing that's hurting me a lot is that I have a kindergartner. She just started kindergarten. And so she went today for her in-class time. And man, she has an iPad or Chromebook. She has a login information, passwords that she's supposed to have and know and do. So I took a screenshot of it, and I'm gonna try to teach her login information. So that's gonna be the biggest struggle for me, is getting my kindergartner through this process. But for teachers in our county, see, this week it's only supposed to be, today was her day. But as teachers, they're giving us the option to have a learning academy at the elementary schools. So she's actually able to go, she went yesterday too, but she was in a separate setting with a group of like 6 kids spread out and still in the elementary school getting some instruction. So she can actually go every day since she's a teacher's child and she's in the academy for teachers' kids. But that's my experience.
Yeah, it's kind of an unusual scenario they've gotten into there, but you know, I guess everybody is trying to you know, think these things through and think through every little nuance that you can play with and you know, rethink it if you need to, but you know, get as much stuff out there on paper, get as many plans in place as you possibly can, and then see what happens.
And one more thing too, going on the devices, we as a county purchased and made a plan back in, I think it was April or May. We signed a contract and we were hoping to get them by August, but they're not going to be here till November, we were told. So just to give kind of a time frame in production for devices.
Yeah. Okay, Lakeisha.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new school year. We started yesterday on Plan C. Originally started, or they thought about Plan B, and then it got changed to Plan C. So I work at the alternative school, Dr. Bolt. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So our kids are a tad bit challenged academically, mentally, and socially. So for the most part, this remote learning Now that a lot of them have the hang of it, it's really going great for us right now. Our attendance it blew our minds. The one student that I I had her last semester, and it took her, we started in March. She probably didn't log on until late April, early May. And she actually showed up yesterday. So I was like, okay, she showed up. I can go home now. I'm good, because she's just that, mentally challenged. So just real excited. A little bummed about our lack of devices, lack of planning with our county. We have a lot of students who don't have internet access, and they didn't order enough hotspots. My thinking is, if the children didn't return Chromebooks, why would you give them hotspots, in the home? But, that's neither here nor there. And they're just not being innovative enough for me to reach all of the students. The school where my husband works, the students are coming in on rotation at least an hour. They set up appointments to meet their IEP goals, which is really cool. And I'm like, that could work in our county, but it's like they're just not being innovative enough for me. They're not thinking outside the box to meet the needs of all of our kids, even with the internet connectivity. So other than that, our school is great, and we're on Plan C for the first 9 weeks, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, the hotspot thing is which a lot of school divisions don't kind of think through. I mean, it's kind of crazy that as a country, we haven't gone with kind of a universal broadband infrastructure, but hopefully we'll get there. But as soon as somebody figures out how to make a ton of money off of it, I'm sure we'll get there. But I'm sorry about that comment. I'll keep my political comments to myself. But I am an old 60s radical, so I have lots of thoughts about things. But they, like a local school division here, I'm up in the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, and the local division here in Harrisonburg, Harrisonburg's maybe 50,000 people. And so the school division's 4,000 or 5,000 students, fluctuates up and down, but about half of them are non-original, non-English speaking students, because we have a rather large Hispanic population here, and because of Mennonite University and Mennonite churches and all, we have kind of a large Eastern European population. And they tend to, kind of ghetto up in that they all tend to live same places or in the same areas. And they're not, diversely spread throughout the city. And so what the city figured out, they had school vans and school buses that they couldn't run. And so they, instead of buying a lot of little hotspots, they bought 6 or 7 of these industrial strength large hotspots that you can put on a vehicle, and they send those school buses out to be in particular areas during the day and up till I think about 7 o'clock at night, and then they're back there at 7 o'clock the next morning. And so the kids have wonderful internet connectivity because of these hotspots, but they were able to do that because it's like any place, where the areas where the poor kids live and where the kids that don't have services like that live, and they were just able to do it. And actually the 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 of those big time industrial hotspots were cheaper than if they equipped every student with one of those little hotspots. And it seems to be working just fine. But that was outside the box, because they figured, okay, we got buses that we're not going to be using, and we got, okay, let's figure out how we're going to do this. And
so we have surrounding counties like Guilford County is doing that. Winston-Salem, Forsyth County is doing that. And I'm like, all you have to do is look at the news and see how innovative these other counties are. And our school system is pretty much like that. you know, in a county of like 50,000 people and, you know, small population, and they know where these neighborhoods are. So the buses are parked behind our school. So I know that we have more than enough.
Yeah.
That happen, but it's just, they're just not, like, I don't know if they just refuse to do it or just not doing it, but it's not thinking outside of the box. And I think that probably bothers me more than anything. Like you have all these degrees, but you're not using them, or you're mandating teachers to be innovative, but you don't think innovative. And I'm just having a real hard time with that. And
Okay. All right. James. You're muted, I think. Well, let me come back to you, James. Oh, there you are now, I think. Can you hear me? We're not getting you, so I guess the mic. No, still not. Check your mic selection. Make sure you got the right mic selection on your computer there. Okay, well, we'll come back. You know, still not getting you. All right, go ahead. Okay, we'll come back. All right. Samuel. Do you go by Samuel or Sam?
I actually go by Duncan. Samuel's just the legal name for all the classes that I have. It's all good.
How the hell you get Duncan out? I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm actually Samuel Duncan McMillan IV, so we'd have to go back a couple generations.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But we are in Plan C for the first 6 weeks. I teach kindergarten, so I understand what Sydney's comments about getting a bunch of small children to memorize a 10-digit login number and a password, and then they have to click 3 links to get to their digital classroom. But I've had all my students attend all their sessions so far. We've had staggered entry, so tomorrow will be my first day with all our students. In addition to the internship that we're trying to do as administrators, I'm also our school's Canvas liaison. So we have added the Canvas LMS to our software this year as a county. And so that's been very interesting, bringing in a brand new software for the school about 10 days ago. So adventures with that. I think my students are doing well. We've just tried to offer flex scheduling. Like some of y'all have mentioned, we've added 80 smart buses to our county. You know, we only technically have 2 neighborhood schools. So we're thankful that we've been able to have those buses go out for mobile hotspots. And we've also partnered with our local colleges to expand their Wi-Fi connectivity for the public. And then I guess the other piece, we have done we've worked towards getting the one-to-one. We've had 4 days of device pickups, because in the spring when we started this, it was 3rd through 12th grade that got devices. So we've only had to supply devices for K2 at this point, but that's been a success so far. I think we could all say we had some trouble with PowerSchool or Homebase with the login there with the outages across the state, but I think that's going to happen as we adapt to this new climate. And just my closing remarks, like I'll tell you what I told my parents at Virtual Open House. You know, we're all in this same river. We're in different boats. We have different equipment, but we're going to try our best. We're going to try to all make it to the same destination.
Good. Nice metaphor. Yeah, James, how about? Still not getting you. All right, let's try Stephen.
Hey, everybody. I want to congratulate all of you for this past year. I mean, we're hitting our year anniversary, and it was a big goal post for me to figure out if I still want to stay in the program. So I I'm glad to see all of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know all of you. So I'll start off with that. I'm still not teaching anywhere right now except for the art gallery, and we did pick our classes back up. I took my son today. I'm in the same county as Alicia, so we're on C schedule. I took my son today to get his Chromebook, and my daughter got hers yesterday. And I thought of a lack of forethought and foresight with they got their Chromebooks, their cameras are installed, but they can't use them yet because of the IT department. So I think that was another thing that, like Lakeisha was talking about, if we're supposed to think innovatively, these departments need to kind of do some interpersonal direction and get this stuff going. But my son handled it fine. He's real off his back. My daughter's kind of nervous about scheduling and stuff like that. But as Duncan said, we're all in it together, and I think we'll get through it. Personally, I've stopped doing furniture for a little while, getting ready to pick up on some more artwork. I'm going to do some book illustrations and get ready to do another biblical illustration. And that's it. Everything's rolling, still killing kudzu.
that may be another one of those unfruitful prospects to try to kill kudzu. I mean, unless you got a flamethrower or something, a big one.
Well, I've fried it before. Yeah. I cut it in the winter and I spray it in the summer.
Yeah.
And I sprayed some more today.
Yeah, it's there are a lot of houses that the only thing that holds them up these days is the kudzu. So
kudzu, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you still not hear me, guys?
Gotcha. Touchdown.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm James Burgess. I work for Walkertown High School in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. We're currently doing, I think, the first 9 weeks, we're going to be doing Plan C, virtual learning for the high schoolers, and possibly transitioning sometime in October back to Plan B. So, kind of undecided. I'm like the rest of you. I'm been dealing with some parents last couple of days. There's a lot of frustration. When we're doing our parent contacts, the parents want their kids in school, and they feel that virtual learning is a waste of time. So, I've had those long discussions with the parents too. So, like I said, that's what we're currently doing.
As I mentioned earlier, did I get everybody? I didn't miss anybody, did I? Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a researcher. I'm a science guy. I do a lot of research methods, research work, and crank out articles and book chapters and crap like that we have to do at the university level. But the one thing I have learned is that everybody has a good opinion about things until you can develop enough science to be able to answer the questions intelligently. And we've been, some of the research that I've been working on with a group of folks is to try to understand more about online environments and whether students can develop a sense of presence or a sense of community in online environments. And, those things are really what drive the learning experience in a seated environment, is how well people feel like they're part of a community and how well they feel that their presence is recognized and valued and all those things. And we just don't have any evidence at this point that what we do in a virtual world is any worse than what happens in a regular classroom. Now, we don't have any evidence that it's better, the virtual world, but we have a fair amount of evidence that says, it's not really that different. It's just the pedagogy. If you get the pedagogy right, that's the big thing. You got to get the pedagogy right. But if you get the pedagogy right, virtual environments are not detriments to learning necessarily. Now, there are cultural aspects to it, as we all know. Parents, why do we have schools? Partially to educate kids and partially give parents a chance to go to work. I mean, that's kind of what we do. Since as a national priority, we don't prioritize daycare. And, you know, like a lot of other countries that have a daycare system that's just part of the, you know, social fabric of the country. And as people go to work, you know, there's an agency or a group or a site that picks up the daycare. And, you know, we're not there yet. And you know, I don't know that we will be because, you know, we're a country of people that couldn't fit in anywhere else around the world. And so we all came here for various reasons. And so culturally, I think we are, you know, always somewhat diverse in opinions. And see how nicely I handle that? And you know, then there's going to be a lot of that kind of going forward until we know more about what works and what doesn't work, and you know why certain things work better than others. And otherwise, we're still dealing with that community social need to have you know, a place for the kids to go during the day. And so we have to realize that parents have a real issue on their hands in trying to figure out how to make that work. And you know, it is something that from their perspective, a lot of them, it's a very legitimate concern. And so as a school, you have to realize that, you know, there is some legitimacy to that concern. You know, I don't know. I don't know quite where we're going to end up, but I think we're going to end up with a whole bunch of different standards and different accreditation standards and things like that for schools and education. And, you know, we may end up year round. We may end up with, you know, lots of things going on. We just don't know yet. And so from a researcher's perspective, it's sort of interesting to see how this begins to play out, because, you know, I kind of then want to say, okay, well, let's see if we can generate some data and see if this is actually true or not. And so that's kind of my take on all of this, that we just have to kind of collect information, collect data, and see what happens. And we'll do what we need to do as we go forward. I'm not saying that in a laissez-faire sort of idea, but I'm just saying it's, you know, it's the reality of where we're at now. And so we have to kind of play with that. All right, I don't want to keep you a long time tonight, because you know, I need to get some reading stuff going with you and things like that. And so I want to talk about the syllabus real quickly. So let me share that little thingy, my little doc cam with you here. I found that I can manipulate the doc cam a little bit better than I can the shared screens off of the website. So if you don't mind seeing my fingers up close, I'll try to always keep my fingernails clean and things like that. But anyhow, one of the issues in doing a class like this is because it is a data class, and so we have to have some evidence that you have the capacity, at least in some of these skill set areas. And I'm not going to go through all the standards and all the, you know, the executive standards and all like that these different assignments are designed to meet. Those are all covered in the syllabus, and so you can kind of dig into those as much as you want to. There are 3 small text material. I don't think that you particularly need a copy of the APA manual. I mean, there are some great online sites that different universities run that can answer all your questions without having to buy that one of those manuals. And so if you haven't bought one, you know, this might not be the time to spend that money. But if you feel like you need to, go ahead. The other three pieces, two of them are fairly recent. One's 16, one's 12. Neither one of those have been significantly improved upon since that version. And there is a basic one that came out of Sage Publishing, about 15 years ago. That's the Sanders and Sullins thing. And that one may be the most difficult. I got the other two. I went online and just, Googled and ordered them. And I got the Sander. I know I got the Hooper and Tracy, both of those within, a handful of days. And they were, altogether $40 or something like that. And, if you buy the Kindle version, it's even cheaper. It's less than that. Sanders, I don't know, that one, I finally found it, but it's coming a bit more slowly. So we'll kind of phase into those as we go, and you'll see why, because a lot of your readings are price is getting old. I wondered why I couldn't read that too well, and then I realized I didn't have my office glasses on. So these readings, we'll read significant portions of these, so you really need to get access to them. It'll be kind of difficult to stay cued into the course without access to those things. But there are some rationales that we have for the course, and a lot of it has to do with the North Carolina Standards for School Executives. And there are two particular belief sets that we built this course around. And one is that schools must have proactive executives who possess a great sense of urgency. And I think that is, to me, the primary motivation for courses like this is that you can't necessarily wait until everybody agrees and the system agrees and everybody agrees. You have to make some moves that are not they don't put you out on a limb or anything, but you do have to make some moves from time to time with the idea that you've got to solve the problem and it needs to happen pretty quick. And so you need leaders that have the certainly the urgency. I like to think the audacity to make some decisions that need to be made in a timely manner. And if they're the right decisions, they'll play themselves out right anyhow. And that the goal of school leadership is to transform schools, and transform schools in such a way that continuous improvement is kind of what schools are all about. They become what we used to call a learning organization. And we learn as we go. We learn the best ways to do things. We learn, what to discard and what to hang on to. And, we don't have a playbook that's, dog-eared and yellowed. We have a playbook that's, loose leaf in a 3-ring binder, or, better yet, it's digital and it keeps getting updated constantly overnight. And so we need to have this thought process that schools need to be transformative, because whatever happens at the end of all this stuff, the world's going to be different, and students are going to have to live in a different world. And so it's for a long time we lived with that industrial model that came about out of the Carnegie groups and all like that in the late 19th century, early 20th century, where schools were basically holding patterns for kids until they could get to be old enough to go work in the factories or go work in the plants. And, it was important to teach them such things as self-discipline and showing up for work on time, and, all those things that had to do with, the factories and what factories expected. And so we spent the best part of, the last century operating schools in a model that looked like that. And to a certain extent, we still are today. and now we're finding that, you know, kids are not, one of the big complaints about industries and different groups coming into areas is that they don't have a skilled workforce. You know, there's not a workforce there that's either skilled or can be skilled. And so a lot of that has to do with, you know, kind of these new sort of skill sets that we have to, you know, provide students or provide instruction in, so students can be productive in whatever this next world is going to be. So we're kind of in that mode now, where not only do we want to be transformative and we want to be proactive, but where we really have to be. I mean, we can't, we simply can't, you know, drag out the old playbook and say, oh, okay, here on page 400 it says we should do it this way. Well, no, that's not workable anymore. Everything needs to be tuned into what the future is going to look like, what these kids are going to have to do in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and what part schools have to play in them. And so that's the rationale for a course like this, because if you're going to be proactive and you're going to be transformative, you got to use data. You can't use your gut, and you can't use your intuition, you can't use any of those. You got to use data. You have to know what works, what doesn't work, what the metrics are that we need to use to figure that out, and how do we collect the data to speak to those metrics. And so that's the part of the reason that this course is kind of laid out the way we've done it, is because we need executives that are that way. And as I mentioned, I'm not going to spend too much time on the standards, you know, that are in the portfolio evidence clusters. And I'm not going to mention the course goals or the student learning objectives. There's more than enough pages there that you can read and kind of deal with those. We'll skip to the good stuff, which is basically the school requirements, course requirements. And I'm going to go back to stop to share and go back over to the web page, the As You Learn site, and because that's a little bit better place to talk about these. And so if you'll let me size this up just a touch. I'm having to get back into my, you know, teaching with screen shares and stuff like that mode. Come on over. Get out of the way. All right. And in the updated As You Learn site, you'll find basically now a listing of the projects and a listing of the due dates, tentative due dates, I might say, because you know, we kind of have to see how the course plays out and whether we need to spend a bit more time on a few things, or whether we, you know, we don't have you know, the reading material in universally for everyone, and we have to kind of maybe slide something back a little bit or something forward a little bit. So assume that these things are the best guess right now as to due dates. Now, there are two categories of things that we will be doing. The first category is things that will most likely, or more likely than not, you know, show up in portfolios. The big program evaluation, or excuse me, the big program evaluation project, which will be due right at the 1st of November. And so, you know, that won't turn around for a while, because there's a lot of pieces that go into that. And we'll have to cover a lot of content, and you'll have to spend some reading time, you know, getting ready to do that particular element. That's the large element, and that's also a group project. We'll organize you into groups of probably 4 groups of 3. And I'm just going to do that in a relatively random pattern. Knowing a little bit about who you are and kind of what you're doing, they won't be totally random, but I'll order that in a fairly random pattern. Because typically one of the reasons for this particular project is to note that if you're going to be successful in a school building, you're going to be successful as a leader in a school building, you have to understand the concept of working as a team and solving problems as a team. And so this is a team activity as much as anything. I mean, there will be a product that will come out at the end of it, but we'll also look at and evaluate and have you reflect on sort of the team process. And so we'll talk about, putting together a plan and a blueprint and, ground rules for each team as to who's going to do what and when you're going to meet. And, there are no team meetings unless everybody's there and, things like that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're going to organize the teams probably next week. It might be the week after. Or no, yeah, probably next week, but it might be the week after. And, from there, we'll begin sort of that parallel process of having these teams begin to work on this, program evaluation project. And you'll have to, agree on what you're going to look at and all that sort of stuff. The school improvement plan, which is due the 20th, and there's rubrics for each of these. If you click on the link, you'll see the rubric at the posting site. Is essentially that. It is to look at the school improvement plan for a particular school. Now, most of you are at schools, Stephen. We may have to figure out. We may have to pair you up with someone else, or something else to kind of work with that. I think everybody else is in a building, so you should have access, or at least supposedly have access to the school improvement plan. Since it's public information. And so, it will be an evaluation of school improvement plan with certain notions about what's missing and all the elements there. And there's a fairly detailed rubric. When you get over the rubric, you'll see what those kind of check sheet looks like and all the questions over there. Then there's a third major project, which is a reflection on opportunity gaps. And that's primarily looking at a school setting and thinking about, what are the opportunities for improvement? And later we'll talk about this a bit later. And sometimes you have to, you can't improve everything all at once. And so you have to prioritize, and you have to pick and you choose, and you start with, which things are precursors to other things. And so you get into sort of that notion of thinking about opportunity, depending upon what you have to, what's the worst problem you have, or what's the first one you have to solve. And, my example of that is that years ago, for a number of years, I worked on a technical team that went out into middle schools and high schools that were not meeting test guidelines, or not meeting basically test benchmarks. And we did school improvement projects, and the division would pick the type of project they wanted to do. They would pick the type of approach they wanted to take, and then we would go in there, and as a resource team, we would provide them with all the data that we could pull about their school building, about their students, about their parents, about everything we had, and help them reach decisions about what needed to be done. And as always, they would come up with a list of 4 or 5 things that were, that we need to do all these things. And for the first year, we would tell them, okay, pick 2. Pick 2. Let's find 2. Now, among those 2, which one needs to be done first? Which one of those is is sort of the seminal issue that we have to fix before we can attack some of these others. And, you know, that would elicit a lot of debate, and we'd have these big faculty meetings, and, you know, after they quit yelling and screaming at each other, then they'd yell and scream at us for a while, and then, you know, everything would all calm down and we'd figure out what we're going to do. Or the school would figure out what they were going to do, and then we'd provide them the resource to help them do those things. And lo and behold, they discovered by the second year, they solved one issue, and now they could maybe do two the next year. And in the third year, these were 4-year projects. In the third year, they would, you know, attack all those others that they had on their laundry list, while we were still maintaining the originals that they had attacked, and collected data for them about how successful those were, and tweaked any of those we needed to. And at the end of 3 years and a 4th year of collecting longitudinal data, they discovered in most cases, in fact, every case that we were involved in, they were able to turn them around, and they were able to bring their test scores and all up to the division level, if not above the division averages. And so, you know, it becomes a prioritizing issue at some point, that you have to decide, you know, what are the opportunities here? What are the gaps in what we're doing? And, you know, how do we get at those gaps? And as I said, there's a fairly detailed rubric for that. Yeah. There are 4 smaller pieces. The reflective leader, that'll be the first little piece, and it'll be after you read some content and we talk a little bit about the different leadership modes that we'll get into. Then, you know, how do you stack up, or what is sort of what makes you who you are, and, you know, which of those modes are most comfortable to you, and all those things. Then there's a reflective leader plan, and that is looking at how to develop a strategic plan, what would be in your strategic plan, what would be your primary goal, your primary strategic model for the school. You know, what is it that the school is trying to do? What is it that sets their climate, that sets the atmosphere in that school? And we'll talk about that a lot, and there'll be a lot of stuff that we'll kind of play around with and read a little bit. And then the third piece is a forum coming up early November, and that is a forum posting about the sit, sip, and the law. You know, what is it? What does the law say? What does the law say about school improvement and strategic planning? And what is required? And an understanding of, you know, how much leeway you have there, and what types of things you're kind of have to meet sort of to the letter of the law for accreditation standards and such. And then we'll come back to another reflective leader practice, which is evaluating the team, evaluating what happened within the team. And each of you will do an evaluation of the team that you were a part of, and the contribution of other members, and the effort, and all those things. And that's all part of you know, living with a team. Not only do you have a cohort to work with, but you also have a responsibility to the cohort. And so we'll get into that sort of thing. And so those are the 7 things that we'll do. Some of those are fairly self-explanatory. Some of those will require a little bit more explanation, and you know, that's why we'll have more synchronous sessions up front than we will on the backside, because there are, you know, elements of content that we just need to talk about and lay out there and make sure that you have a pretty good sense about what those are. And so that's the guts of it all. That's what everything is happening. And you know, then we'll get into the sort of the Zoom schedule. I've got the first 2 or 3 are up, and then I guess we're up through Labor Day. And at Labor Day, I will update all those, or before, well, this week, I'll update all of those after Labor Day, and get them posted up. But just remember, we need to be a little nimble, a little flexible here, because don't get too far ahead of the mix, because we may feel necessary to go in a different direction. Particularly if we kind of see all these school models, all these plan A's and B's and C's turn into plan C's, and now what the heck do we do for D? Which very well could in some places. And so we'll kind of keep some flexibility there. But there won't be a lot of flexibility on the 3 major projects. And,
Dr. Moore,
yeah, go ahead.
I just had a question. I know last time, again, we had some of those changes in the dates. So for those due dates of those projects, are those set in stone, or could they be later moved at some time?
They're pretty much in stone. Yeah, they're pretty much in stone, because they're kind of built around a sequence that lets you get through them and have them done, the ones that you might use in a portfolio and things like that, so we can kind of give you feedback to do a redo on if you're going to put them in there. So yeah, they'll I would say, I might slide them a day or two, if I find that I'm a couple of days behind on doing some reading or grading, but you can just kind of pretty much lock those in, I think. Another complication for me is, well, you say I have a lot of complications. One is, I'm an old man, but otherwise, outside of that complication, and I'm not the most organized person in the world, is the fact that I've got some additional responsibilities in terms of doc students going forward. And I have 3 or 4 doc students that are currently in the process of collecting data. And they're all going to want to try to get their dissertation finished and defend this semester. And I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen, but we have to kind of do the best we can to follow their expectations. And so if you admit somebody to your doc program, you're also committing to them. If they'll do their part, you'll do their part, you'll do your part and get them out of here. So I have perhaps an overabundance of students I work with over there, but I have difficulty saying no to someone that's trying to finish that degree out. But anyhow, there could be some sliding here, a couple of days here or there, but you can pretty well lock those in, I think. And because I've kind of played with them in such a way that I know where I'm going to be at certain times, and mostly in my den here and during those periods of time. So I'll have the opportunity to go through those pretty well. And there's only 12 of you, so it's not killer to respond. Now, I also have 2 other classes, but one's a graduate stats class. It's got last count 24 in it. And what's the other one? Oh, the other one is an advanced research class that's got 15 or so in that. So I'm kind of booked, but so I'm trying to stay in a schedule that'll work. So let's kind of say they're locked in then, until they're not. But I am giving myself up to 2 weeks to respond. I found that making unwise promises is something that I've done at various times in my life, but I find that 2 weeks should give me plenty of time to respond to all these, and probably less, but I'm giving myself the outside 2 weeks to respond to things. So hopefully before Thanksgiving, we'll be pretty much done in this class. And except for maybe a rewrite or two that maybe 1 or 2 of you might need to do, there won't be anything that'll happen after Thanksgiving in this class. So see how that plays out. But I'm thinking, I've actually spent a lot of time planning this one. So, because I know that some of you were in the other class and that didn't go as well as I wanted it to. But this time I knew my schedule 4 days before the semester started instead of the day before. So, you know, I have a little bit, the extra 3 days of lead time was nice. I think if I were a baseball player these days, I'd be an auxiliary infielder, an outfielder. I played wherever they put me. Because what the hey, you do what you have to do. Any comments, questions, gripes, bitches, castigations, whatever. All right, folks, I will. Yeah, go.
I'm gonna speak one more time. I'm sorry. I just wanted to double check, trying to match up the printed or downloaded syllabus, you know, if you use printers, versus
don't do that.
As you learn. I just wanted to double check on the,
that's the other thing I got to check is make sure the syllabus lines up. The As You Learn page is correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to double check, especially with there was a different breakdown of assignments.
Yeah, the As You Learn is your Bible.
Okay.
Okay. When will we? I will put the syllabus. I just got the syllabus, the template for the syllabus. I just got that like 4 days ago. So, you know, I built the As You Learn site because I knew the content that needed to be in there. And I got the syllabus, and I have not checked through all the dates and everything, but the As You Learn site is the tablet.
When do you think we'll find out who our group members will be for that bigger project?
Next week.
Okay.
Yeah. You can hold me to that.
Don't worry, I'm not going to cuss at you if you don't have it done by next week.
You would not be the first. Okay?
Lane might, you know, Steven too. He's got a foul mouth.
I'm nice.
After I've finished my athletic endeavors, I thought about coaching. In fact, I did coach basketball in high school for a few years when I was teaching in high school, and football. I did the scouting and did the defensive backs and all that sort of stuff. But anyhow, after doing all that stuff and moving away from that and starting to work at the university level and making peanuts, you know, I took on doing officiating. And so I officiated football, basketball, helped set up track meets, and officiated girls basketball in West Virginia. That was an experience. You know, you were talking about back the bus up to the door so you can get the officials out of there, you know, without any damage to them. And I think I've heard everything you could ever hear about my mother, my father, my kids, whatever. So I'm pretty much impervious to that. But don't get my wife pissed. I mean, you don't want to go there. She was a school teacher for 33 years before she retired. And this is my 40, what did we figure that? It's my 44th year in higher ed and 48th year in full-time education. If you count the year I was a sub, low-paid sub, 49 years. And so this is, I don't know of anything else to do. Got no place to go, got no hobbies. Body's a mess. Every joint I've got damaged or broken to some extent. And so, good. But I'm going to do my best to make sure I meet my expectations and your expectations for the course. So, you know, give it a shot. We'll see. What is it Carl Rogers said? Unconditional positive regard. It's what you have to start every day with in the classroom, unconditional positive regard. That's a good place to start. Right now, it's a great place to start because everybody needs a break. You know, everybody is on thin ice these days, and so everybody needs a break. Okay, any other thoughts, questions?
What kind of hobbies are you into?
Not much these days. I would like to get back on the golf course. I had a back surgery a few years ago, and that took me off the golf course. And then my left knee gave out. I had to have 3 surgeries on that, and finally a replacement knee. And my right quad and knee gave out. I had nerve damage in my back, so my quad atrophied, and my knee has no reflex in it. I've been able to build the quad back up, but you know, so it makes walking and knowing where both my feet are at the same time sometimes a challenge. But I haven't fallen in over a year, so I think I'm in pretty good shape. Plus, I've lost 50 pounds in the last 3.5 years, 3 years.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I've been doing about almost 10 pounds a year for the last 3 years. And yeah, I just did a physical. My doc says I'm in great shape. Heart and lungs and enzymes, I'm just in a crappy shell. So most of my hobbies now are more mental than they are physical. You know, reading, looking at, you know, analyzing data, setting up research models, learning new statistical things, new research things. I mean, you know, you got, you're 70 years old, you got to do something.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that when you retire, if you're not careful, you die.
Big time.
Something goes away when you retire. And I don't know what it is, and I don't want to find out. So I'm not retiring.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
We need you.
I'm not sure about that, but I need to. Okay. All right, guys. I have recorded this in case you want to see it. It'll take me a day. You know, YouTube is overwhelmed right now, as is As You Learn. You know, they doubled the amount of server space, storage space. They doubled the amount of switches on going to the servers on As You Learn, and it's still running slow. So they're going to have to do another software update, and I'm afraid they're going to do that here in the next couple of weeks and just shut us down one weekend and say we're going to have to update software. So, you know, As You Learn may be a little picky for a little while because as you mentioned, somebody mentioned earlier, they just didn't think through the infrastructure need of putting, you know, 20,000 students online in the spring, and then having a significant number of them stay online during the fall. They just didn't infrastructure. They just didn't plan that. So they're sorting it out as we go. So we'll see how it plays out. But this will be up, recording will be up, and the rest of the topical outline will be up on As You Learn with all the right dates and stuff like that. And I will fix the syllabus. So, you know, don't look at that too much right now. It will be consistent with this once I finish going through and reviewing everything again. Okay. All right. Y'all have a good week. Hang in there, you know, stay safe. And just remember, as mentioned earlier, all in the same boat together, all in the same ocean together, different boat. But you know, that's the part, because we don't know where all the boats are coming from, and that's the difficult part. So hang in there. See you next week. Have a great evening.
Have a good one.